Okay, so the question has to do with the debate that occurred 4 or 5 months ago between Bill Nye, the science guy, representing scientific naturalism, and Ken Ham, representing Christianity. And it was a debate about, I didn't hear the debate. I heard all about it, but I didn't actually listen to it. So let me say that it was a debate about the reconciling Christianity and science. I couldn't have picked two worse people to be at that table. Ken Ham does not represent Christianity. He represents a very outdated but popular interpretation of the creation narratives of Genesis, an interpretation that arose in the 1600s when the Bible was first published in English by a couple of guys whose authority was not that they were better Greek or Hebrew scholars than anybody that come before them, but that they were willing to take the English as gospel. And Bill Nye is really just a TV popularizer of science. He's not a philosopher of science or a historian of science, so neither of them had any authority to be arguing that issue. What you're specifically referencing is Ken Ham's response to the problem of there not being enough room on the ark for all the species that would have been there. This highlights a real problem for the young earth interpretation. And Ken Ham's way of dealing with that problem is to have there being on the ark not every species of living thing, but one representative pair. So for instance, there was just one pair of dogs of any kind on the ark, which in Ken Ham's view, after the ark landed, quickly diversified into red foxes and gray foxes and kit foxes and timber wolves and hyenas and jackals and everything else in the dog family, which is, as Bill Nye apparently pointed out, a rate of evolution that exceeds by multiple orders that which even the most dogmatic evolutionist would ever claim is possible. So the real answer to your question is that was a softball for Bill Nye, because Ken Ham's position is not founded at all in Scripture. It's putting a whole lot of human interpretation into a very scant narrative, and it's not the Christian belief that there was just one pair of dogs on the ark. It's Ken Ham's belief. So I hope that helped. I've answered questions about the flood before. I'd be glad to take the time to take you through what I think is the correct understanding of the flood of Genesis 6 through 8, but it is not global in its extent. Let me just say, we can take another question about this if you'd like, but let me just say that it would have only been about 100 years ago that anybody reading the Genesis account of the flood would have thought in global terms. That is, we think in global terms because we can get across the globe in 24 hours. Nobody up until about 100 years ago, and certainly not the original readers of Genesis, would have pictured a planet when they read the words, all the earth was flooded. The Hebrew word there also refers to land, and really the translation would be better. All the land visible to Noah was flooded. But we immediately jump to global thinking because we're a global society. So there's many places in Scripture that use similarly all-encompassing language where we naturally recognize that what's in view there is not a planet, but a locale. So for instance, Paul writes to the Roman Christians, word of your faith has gone out through the whole world. Well, we know he doesn't mean that they're Maoris in New Zealand learning about what the Roman Christians are doing, right? So the intention of the passage dictates how wide that all encompasses. And the flood was not global. It encompassed all of where humanity lived at the time, which was the Mesopotamian plain. And nobody could escape from the flood. It inundated the whole area infected by mankind's sin. But of course, we have flannel graph and little clay model visions of kangaroos and penguins on that ark. Those aren't in Scripture. But they're in Ken Ham's understanding of Scripture. Okay.